Imagine being dumped literally in the Grand Canal. That's what happened when two sisters decided family drama wasn't enough, so they went full horror movie, and Dublin has never looked at a black rubbish bag the same way since. Alright, rewind to Dublin, St. Patrick's weekend, March 2005. Cities buzzing, pubs spilling out onto the streets, everyone a few pints deep. On O'Connell Street, three people are wobbling around together, but this isn't just harmless fun. First, we've got Farah Swaleh Noor, about 40 years old, born in Kenya, though at one point he claimed he was Somali. His track record: violence, lies, and a reputation for terrorizing women. He got Irish citizenship in 1999, but by 2005, his rap sheet and behavior had made him the ultimate red flag wrapped in human form. Then there's Linda Mulhall, around 30, mother of four, addicted to heroin, drunk half the time, carrying the weight of a rough life. She's spiraling, but she still had enough presence of mind to know she'd made a mistake letting Noor into her orbit. Her younger sister, Charlotte Mulhall, only 21, already tangled up in drugs, booze, and scrappy street fights. Tough upbringing, no direction, plenty of pent-up rage. And finally, Kathleen Mulhall, the mom. She's been through abusive relationships, knows exactly what toxic men look like, and when Noor shows up, she sees him as another monster knocking on her family's door. So what do this crew do? They don't go home to a cup of tea. No, they go back to Kathleen's flat in Summerhill. They pile in neck ecstasy, booze still flowing, and the party vibe flips into something darker. Noor gets creepy fast. He's pawing at Linda, won't let her go, acting like he owns the place. Linda's trying to push him off, Charlotte's fuming, and Kathleen. She doesn't scream for help or call the guards. Instead, she allegedly shouts, "Just kill him for me." That right there is the moment where everything flips. The predator just got marked as prey. What starts like a drunken row explodes into a full-on execution. Charlotte whips out a Stanley knife and slashes Noor straight across the throat. Blood everywhere. Linda, not to be outdone, grabs a hammer and smashes him in the head. Not once, not twice, but over and over until he drops. What began as a messy night out has just morphed into one of the most infamous Irish murder cases of the century. So Noor's lying there, dead on the floor of a Summerhill flat. Party's officially over. But you can't exactly leave a 6-foot body chilling in your mother's apartment, right? That's when this night flips from violent to absolutely grotesque. The sisters and their moms start cleaning. Towels, buckets, bleach the hole. We can fix this routine. But here's the problem. You can't mop up murder like it's a spilled pint. The blood's everywhere. The walls, the floor, their clothes. It looks less like a flat and more like a set from a low-budget horror flick. So Charlotte and Linda make the call. If they can't hide the body whole, they'll hide it in pieces. Out comes the Stanley knife again, and a hammer, and black bin bags. They haul Noor's corpse into the bathroom. Hours go by. Limbs off. Torso separated. Even his head gets taken off like this is some nightmare anatomy class. And because the sisters apparently don't do half measures, they cut off his penis too. Dublin tabloids would later call it poetic justice. Darkly poetic maybe, but still stomach-turning. Now comes the logistics problem. What do you do with piles of body parts when you live in a cramped flat in the middle of the city? Easy answer. Spread them across Dublin like some twisted scavenger hunt. The torso and limbs are stuffed into sports bags and bin liners. The sisters sneak them out and dump them into the Royal Canal. And here's where it gets properly surreal. The next day, people out jogging near Croke Park spot a leg with a sock still on it floating in the water. Imagine lacing up your trainers, going for your Saturday run, and bam, human leg bobbing next to you. Piece by piece, more of Noor is discovered. Arms, torso, all pulled from the canal by horrified guards and divers. The sisters thought the water would swallow their crime, but Dublin had other ideas. So here's the kicker. Noor's head never makes it to the canal. While his torso and limbs are out doing the backstroke in the Royal Canal, the head gets a completely different journey. And trust me, it's somehow even weirder. The sisters decide the best way to handle this problem is public transport. Yeah, they literally hop on a bus to tell it, carrying Noor's head around like it's a shopping bag. Imagine sitting there on the 40 bus, headphones in, and the person across from you is casually holding a severed head in a sports bag. Welcome to Dublin, folks. They bury it in a local park. Quick job, nothing fancy. Meanwhile, their mom Kathleen tosses the hammer and knife into a pond. Nice little family day out. But here's where the story gets grimly absurd. A few days later, Linda goes back, digs up the head, and decides it needs extra steps. She smashes it further using her teenage son's school bag and then reburies the fragments. Because apparently murder disposal is something you learn by trial and error. Word gets out. The media explodes. Rumors swirl about satanic rituals, cults, witchcraft. The Scissor Sisters headline starts popping up, not because of the band, but because two sisters literally used blades to carve a man into pieces. And the guards, they're not buying the ritual talk. They know what it is, a family implosion mixed with drugs, booze, and years of built-up rage. But Dublin being Dublin turns the whole thing into twisted legend. Pubs are buzzing with theories. Taxi drivers can't stop talking about it. The city's obsessed, horrified, and low-key entertained all at once. So about 10 days after this little DIY dismemberment project, a leg floats up in the canal. Boom case blown open. The guards send in their sub-aqua team and soon enough more pieces of Noor are pulled from the water. Not exactly the kind of fishing trip anyone wants to remember. But here's the real, you cannot make this up moment. The victim isn't identified through fingerprints or DNA at first. Nope. A Somali man sees a t-shirt on one of the torso pieces and says, yeah, that's Noor's. Imagine being recognized because of your clothes while you're literally in bin bags floating down Dublin. From there, it snowballs. Crime Stoppers puts out a reward. Whispers around the flat start pointing straight back to the Mulhall family. And then Linda cracks. She admits to the whole thing. Kathleen, the mom, legs it to England to avoid the fallout. Charlotte and Linda pulled in and slapped with charges. And as if this whole thing wasn't dark enough, tragedy strikes again. Their dad, John Mulhall, hangs himself not long after. A family already shattered just splinters completely. Court time comes and Dublin can't get enough. Every paper, every pub, everyone has an opinion. The Justice Minister himself calls it, quote, the most grotesque killing of my professional lifetime. And he wasn't exaggerating. The verdict, Charlotte gets life for murder. Linda pleads down to manslaughter, bags 15 years. Kathleen, who helped with the cleanup, gets 5 years. And with that, the Mulhall women are locked away, branded forever as the Scissor Sisters. But the story doesn't end in court. Years later, Linda claims she actually dumped Noor's head in bins around Phoenix Park. Because why leave one haunting mystery unsolved when you can keep Dublin guessing for decades? And Charlotte, let's just say prison life didn't calm her down. Photos leak of her holding a knife to another inmate's throat. Suddenly, the Scissor Sisters nickname feels less like tabloid clickbait and more like her actual prison resume. So fast forward a bit, Linda serves her time and walks out of prison in 2018. Just like that, one of Ireland's most notorious killers is back on the streets, trying to live like nothing ever happened. Charlotte, though, is still behind bars. But here's where the irony hits you right in the face. She's not exactly the nightmare inmate anymore. Nope. She's sitting in a single-room setup labeled a model prisoner and spending her days knitting teddy bears. Yeah, the same woman who once dragged a severed torso through Dublin is now stitching plush toys for charity drives. If that doesn't mess with your head, I don't know what will. And the mom, Kathleen, she did her stretch too. After fleeing to England, she eventually faced the music back in Ireland and served 5 years. 3 women, 1 crime, and a story that still makes Dublin shiver nearly 20 years later. The Scissor Sisters weren't some underground punk band, they were a family that imploded in the worst way possible. A boyfriend no one trusted, a mum who egged it on, and two daughters who turned rage into one of Ireland's most infamous murder cases. So here's the haunting part. One's free, one's still caged, and the city is left with a case that lives on in whispers, jokes, and shudders. And the ultimate punchline? While you're watching this from your sofa, Charlotte Mulhall, the so-called Scissor Sister, might be putting the final stitch in a teddy bear meant for a child. Now that's a plot twist no horror movie could write.